Roy, can you give us just one reaction being sent home from the World Cup? Can you give us any insight into what happened last night?
No.
Can you even tell us how you're feeling at the moment?
Feel very good. Clear conscience. And I'm happy to be going home. Happy to go and see my family.
Any regrets at all?
No regrets.
Not even about playing in the World Cup?
There's more important things to worry about.
So what's your plans from here?
Get my flight.
So the Republic of Ireland prepare for their opening World Cup game against Cameroon in 8 days' time without their inspirational captain. He exits the biggest footballing tournament in the world alone and in disgrace.
So joining us to talk about probably the biggest incident of the 2002 World Cup is a comedian, host of the Cork in the North podcast, Manchester United and Ireland fan, Andrew Ryan. Hello Andrew.
Guys, how are you? Good to be here.
Good. Thanks for joining us on the World Cup of World Cups podcast. So this is Ireland's third and to date final World Cup appearance.
Yeah, it's been 20 years since the Second Civil War. And, 2002, it was the last time we qualified for a major tournament. The way I look at it as an Irish football fan is, if we qualify for a tournament, and we've been lucky to qualify for 2 Euros recently, 2012, 2016, is that all I want as an Irish fan is to go into the last group game with a chance to get it. That's all we look for. We don't qualify a lot. So the next World Cup in 2026, I think, would be our best chance in the last 15, 20 years anyway, with the squad that we're developing. So it could get a little bit exciting, but we're still quite a way away. But 2002 was a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, because you had a decent squad in 2002, didn't you?
Jason McAteer, Gary Breen, Maddie Holland, Stephen Reid, Robbie Keane, Connolly. I mean, on paper, we had a really, really great squad. And then obviously we qualified through a playoff. We beat Iran in a playoff. We beat them at home. I think we beat them at home 3-0. And then we went over to Iran to finish the job. And Roy Keane was missing. He wasn't there. And I think there had been a bit of animosity building in the camp. Well, there'd always been animosity between Keane and McCarthy, going back to 1994 when we were in the United States for the World Cup. Keane and McCarthy had a bit of an argument on a bus. Yeah,
that's one of those things that I would love to have been there for, is to watch Roy Keane and Mick McCarthy kick off on a bus.
Oh yeah, in 1994, I think Keane was a bit of a young whippersnapper. You know, Mick McCarthy had the nickname Captain Fantastic, sort of did everything right, by the book. And Roy Keane was sort of just whatever, just out in America on the piss, having a great time. And I think some of his antics kind of riled up Mick McCarthy. And I think ever since then, there probably had been a little bit of animosity. And then when Mick became the manager, Keane was obviously the most important player and the best player on the pitch for us. And, Keane came from a phenomenally elite setup at Old Trafford to a country, a football association in Ireland, where soccer is our fourth sport. And, we only have a population of whatever at the time, maybe 5-6 million people. And I mean, we just don't have that elite professionalism. And I think it just, I'd say so many things happened and built up over time that things happened that the straw broke the camel's back. And next thing Keane's on a plane home. And it was just phenomenal news. Couldn't believe it.
Were you over in England at that point, or were you?
I was only. I was 20 years of age. It's one of those moments where were you when 9/11 happened? Where were you when Princess Diana died? It was. Yeah. How did you find out about Keane McCarthy? And it broke at 7:15 a.m. I was listening to the radio. I was on my way to work. I had a 9-to-5 job, and it came on a radio station called Today FM. The host was Ian Dempsey. I remember it clear as day. I was so excited about this World Cup because in 1994, I was 12 years of age. But this was the first World Cup that I could actually drink. I could actually understand. I know the games were early in the morning. So I get that the games were starting at whatever it was, 6 a.m., 9 a.m., and then midday, I think. They were the times. So, but we had a couple of games on the weekends, I think. So it was great to be. I was planning on drinking at 6 a.m. to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
So I heard the news. There was a rumor saying that Roy Keane was being sent home from the World Cup, and I actually thought it was because the breakfast radio DJ Ian Dempsey, he does a lot of comedy on the show. I thought this was like a sketch that was
a little wacky skit.
And it took me about maybe 30 seconds to realize this is actually fucking happening. I went into work on the radio when no one did any work. It was what is going on? Now, this was before Twitter and before Facebook. And, we had mobile phones, but we had Nokia's 3310s and all that. So we were all glued to the radio, like something out of the war, like, has he killed him? Has Keano killed him? Like, what's going on? And I'm from Cork, so I'm incredibly pro Roy Keane. But, yeah, the news broke, man. And I swear to God, I still haven't gotten over it,
This is a therapy session for you.
Yeah, I still haven't got over it. It's one of those things that breaks. And you knew there was animosity. You knew that there was an issue. But I always thought that it's a World Cup.
Yeah. Can't you suck it up for 4 or 5 games?
And then come back and then do an explosive interview.
So Roy Keane is unhappy primarily about the facilities. That's the catalyst for the...
Yeah. So Roy Keane had a relationship with a journalist in Ireland. I can't think of his name now, but that journalist is in prison for child abuse.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So it's a bit of a mad one. So we had a really top sports journalist here. I'll actually just give you his name while I have you here, just for a bit of context. It is Tom Humphreys. Tom Humphreys was a journalist who got an interview with Roy Keane while they were over in Saipan. So what happened was, obviously we're in Japan and Korea. We go to Saipan for a week, sort of camp, for a week's training camp. This was not our World Cup residence. This was a week before we moved into our facility that we would travel to and from the games from. So we fly out to Saipan. Now, Roy Keane always had an issue with the setup in Ireland. For example, we're a small country. We, in the 90s, as you will know, we have Gaelic football, we have Irish hurling, we have rugby, but we would have relied on the grandparent rule a lot with certain players, especially in the early 90s. As the success of the World Cup and the European Championships of '88, soccer really caught on in Ireland. People got a bit of a bug for it and what it can do to the communities. Obviously, we've a lot of people then took up the sport, and it got a lot more professional. A lot of money was invested. But Roy Keane's issue that he spoke about was that the suits, the people in charge of the Football Association, they would fly business class or whatever, and the players were always back in coach or in economy. And he just kind of felt like the players seemed to be secondary to the Football Association. Now, there's a lot of other different bits of details, and Roy Keane didn't play in the second leg against Iran because he was injured. And I think Mick McCarthy wasn't happy that he wasn't in Iran. He wasn't happy. I think he kind of questioned his injury. Roy Keane went to Saipan, and eventually when they went out to Saipan, the football pitch that they were training on was classed as a car park. It was rotten. DHL hadn't delivered the equipment, bibs, footballs, you name it. And I think Roy Keane just lost a fucking rag. Just lost a rag. It was like, what the hell is this? We're going to a World Cup and we don't even have the basics. He had agreed to do an interview with Tom Humphreys in the Examiner. And in the interview, he said he just wasn't happy with a couple of things. The interview was then sent back to Keano, and the interview was passed. He was happy with the interview. He said, yeah, I'm happy for you to publish this interview. And then obviously Mick McCarthy got hold of it. And during a team meeting, he said to the players, apparently, has anyone here got a problem? And then pulled out the Roy Keane interview. And then fucking World War IV imploded.
The quote is that Roy Keane says to Mick McCarthy, Mick, you're a liar. You're a fornicating self-pleasurer. I didn't rate you as a player. I don't rate you as a manager, and I don't rate you as a person. I like the fact that Roy Keane rates people as a person. He's got like some kind of rating system.
Yeah.
But he won't even do that for Mick McCarthy. He repeats, you're a fornicating self-pleasurer, and you can stick your World Cup up your rectum. The only reason I have any dealings with you is that somehow you are the manager of my country. You can stick it up your testicles.
Lovely. That's a very powerful statement. That is, basically all hell broke loose. And it's subsequently Mick McCarthy, that famous interview, he sends him home. He said, I've sent Roy home because of the fallout over it. Now,
he must have known that going into it. This kind of been a surprise to him.
You know, he knew all that. Like, he played with the players for years. But I think when it goes to the World Cup, I think he was expecting next level sort of planning, next level opportunity. And look, that 2002 World Cup wasn't a great World Cup. You know, it wasn't an amazing standard of quality. I thought we played some excellent football out there. But when Keane came home, I mean, you couldn't get away from it. People fell out over it. People were like, Roy Keane was right. He stood up for what he believed in. The lack of organisation and planning in the Football Association, he's shown them up for what they are. And then people were like, Roy Keane should have bit his tongue and represented his country and did right for the country. And he didn't. You know, he came home in the end.
Would you, if you were Mick McCarthy, have sent him home, or would you have done something like a punishment, but a lesser one?
Oh, listen, I don't know. It's very hypothetical. Like, there's that sort of manager sort of, it's my way or the highway mentality, and I think in a club setting that can be, you know, correct, because, you know, clubs can just sell you as a player.
Yeah.
But when you're managing an international team, that you can't sell players, and there's 5 million people at home who want to see our best player and one of the best players in the world at the time represent our country with a very good squad, and in a very, you know, we came up against Cameroon, we drew 1-1, we played Germany, and Robbie Keane scored in the 92nd or 3rd minute against Germany, and then we played Saudi Arabia to get out of the group. We won that 3-0. I don't know what I have sent him home. I can understand why he was sent home. I can see the reasons why.
Well, it's because he got personal about McCarthy, isn't it? That he can't really come back from that. And, you know, it's that thing of how these things escalate, and you think, okay, Roy Keane's given this interview. Why couldn't Mick McCarthy have spoken to him individually and said, look, I appreciate some of the things you're saying here. I know things aren't ideal, but this is the hand we're dealt, and we've got to try and make the best of it. Please don't go to the papers slagging us off anymore. That could have been the end of it. But because he then pulls it out in a team meeting, in that sort of very
you've basically
alpha way,
you've basically just summed up what a lot of people thought. Why did Mick McCarthy, if you've got a problem with somebody in your team, you pull them into a room? Hey man, what's going on? You know, I know you're not happy, but promise me when we get out of Saipan and we get to our camp, things are going to be a lot better. We've been let down by DHL. I know you did the interview. That's okay. You know, you're entitled to voice your reasons. You're unhappy, but listen, what's done is done. Let's just move on for the interests of the football team and the country. But McCarthy decides to bring it up in front of 30, 40 people.
Yeah, so McCarthy gives him the opportunity to say the things that he know will get him sent home.
Exactly. And there you go. And then it seems to be that a lot of people made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of people, Roy Keane did something wrong, Mick McCarthy did something wrong, and it just spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. Like even the Irish,
because sometimes when these things happen, there's where the team comes around and becomes like stronger for having, you know, it's us against the world, even all the media against us. I know England teams have used that in the past, of the media hate us and the fans don't like us, so we're just going to win this for ourselves or whatever.
That's not really worked for England, has it? No, Italy are very good at this. Usually they win a World Cup just after there's been a massive scandal in their own league because they all close ranks. Was there a sense of that happening with the Ireland squad?
That we would sort of like come together?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they did, you know, they went through a very traumatic experience before a World Cup. And when you look at the performances, we actually did okay. You know, we did well out there. Once the first game started, I think people just got on with it and just did their jobs. You know, Matty Holland in midfield. And I think Lee Carroll.
Was he basically the like-for-like swap there?
Well,
Holland. I mean, not like for like, but he was in the Keane role, was he?
Yeah. Like, and then we had, I think we had Lee Carsley as well, Mark Kinsella. So we had a bit of depth in the centre and mid with a few players that could move in there, but it just seemed sort of like what if, like it was great to see it, but it also was a bit like, it doesn't matter what we do in this World Cup, we'll only be remembered for one thing.
Yeah,
we could have got to the semi-final, and I can guarantee you, people would be like, "Oh, do you remember when we got to the semi-final? Yeah, we would have won it if Roy Keane was playing." Do you know what I mean? So, like, there's nothing you can kind of. It's just disappointing, and it's disappointing that is our last World Cup. If we'd have qualified for 2006 or 2010, we would have had different memories of World Cups now, but we don't, and it divided a lot of people. Like, I was firmly in the Roy Keane camp at the start. And then as the World Cup started, I was kind of veered a little bit more into the Mick McCarthy because of the sort of like what this could have been. But then again, subsequently, you learn after Roy Keane finished playing football, you kind of learn of his mentality and you realise, what's happened at Sunderland, what's happened at Ipswich, his punditry, his kind of way he kind of finds it difficult to get on with people who don't have the same sort of desire and talent as him. And he can't seem to understand that because and you kind of understand that, yeah, well, that's just his mentality. His mentality is, everything has to be the best, and we have to demand the best. And when he's not getting it, I think he just loses his fucking head.
While we got you, was it a World Cup qualifier that was Thierry Handball was about?
Don't fucking start.
Was that World Cup?
Why are you depressing the man?
Because it's.
It was 2010. It was for the 2010 playoff in Paris, second leg. Trapattoni was the manager. He set us up brilliantly. We were drawing 1-1 on aggregate. We were 1-0 in Paris. We scored over there. We were 1-1. We had a great squad of players with Trapattoni. We really came up a level, I felt. Richard Dunn at the back, like the hugger monster. Like, he was just brilliant. Like, and when Thierry Henry handled the ball, I was watching it in a pub in Manchester, and obviously the ball goes in, and all the players react straight away, especially Shay Given. He's going absolutely nuts. And I'm thinking, that'll just be the linesman saw that. He just has to turn around and blow the whistle. And then the replay comes on, and I remember I was with my English friends, and everyone looked at me and was just like, we feel for you here. Like, you're being done here. Like, you're being done. Like, it wasn't like, well, it kind of was a handball, or it flicked up against his hand. You could see the hand going out. 2 touches. And
it's a foul in basketball.
Exactly. And then that happened. And then Roy Keane, his mentality was, well, they shouldn't have let the cross come in anyway. The FIFA gave the Irish Football Association $5 million because of that.
Really? Wow.
As a sort of like, we got it wrong, but we don't have technology to deal with it. The referee made a mistake. These things happen. And subsequently, the guy that was in charge of the Football Association at the time, he basically, like, there's a lot of corruption going on in the Football Association regarding that $5 million. There was, there's a book being written on the Football Association of Ireland. It's called Champagne Football. John Delaney was his name. He would go into bars when Ireland were playing away, and he'd buy a round of drinks for all the fans, all on the Football Association's credit card.
Wow.
He was getting paid. Do you know, he was making, the Irish Football Association chief executive was making more money than the Spanish football chief executive and the Italian football chief executive combined.
Wow.
We're a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
We have systematic corruption. Just, it's horrendous what sort of gone on. And John Delaney campaigned that Ireland would be given a free spot at the World Cup. Like, it was delusion. It was Father Ted shit. Like, basically, like, we should be the 33rd team in the World Cup or something like that. What was it? 32 teams in the World Cup? Yeah. I'm like, where are you going to put us? It's group
Just everyone plays an extra game. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it was embarrassing. Like, at that time, when you look back on it, like, we got Roy Keane incident 2002. The next, we lifted ourselves back up. Trapattoni comes in. He got us really close, put in a great performance in Paris. Thierry Henry does that. And then we go again and we qualify for the 2012 Euros. And then we it was shocking really under Trapattoni. And then we had Roy Keane come in as assistant manager with Martin O'Neill, and then we get to the 2016 Euros, and Robbie Brady scores against Italy to get us out of the group, and we go to play France, and we lose. We were 1-0 up against France at halftime. We were exhausted, though. We were fucked. France were in third gear, and France were just like, we're playing it. France are like Champions League. We were like very top of the championship. We were exhausted. And we've had a lot of good times, but it is marred by controversy, football in Ireland, the administration side of the football game. I mean, in England, you guys, you got Sam Allardyce, that leaked video, he got sacked. It seems that there's a really good structure in England, St. George's Park, and you're kind of reaping the rewards of what's going on there at the moment, especially in the last sort of 4 to 6 years with Gareth Southgate. It's given you guys an absolutely phenomenal time in English football in terms of, going to tournaments, being confident, making the semi-final of the World Cup, making the final of your hope is there again.
Yeah, my kids don't realise that this isn't normal.
Yeah. But for you guys, qualifying for a tournament is a given. For us, it's not.
Yeah.
We're 2024 is potentially the next time we could be in a tournament, and it's already not looking great. So you don't know how lucky you are. But you have a population of 70 million. We have a population of 5. So we actually
you punch well above your weight.
Yeah, and we have to compete against Gaelic football and rugby and hurling. So, our pool of players is incredibly small.
Does it give you any solace at all that in 2010 France go on to stink up the place before crashing out in the first round?
It was embarrassing. They were fighting before the tournament, weren't they? It was horrendous. I just thought that we would have given a better account of ourselves. We would have represented Ireland better. The fans, our fans are great. When I went to the Euros in 2016, and I never had so much fun with the fans. I never small things I remember getting on an underground in Paris, and I was on my own. I was actually going to meet some other Irish friends because I'd flown in from London on the day of the Sweden game. And I was just sitting there, and this Irish guy came up to me and, "Hey man, see you on your own there. You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, yeah." And he says, "Just be a little bit careful there. A lot of pickpocketers about." And then a husband and wife got on with the 2 kids, and this guy just went up to him and said, "Hey guys, hope you enjoy your day. Just be a bit careful with your purses and your bags and all that." And I was just like, "This is when Ireland go abroad."
Ambassador for the country.
And I mean, we go there with our expectation of hope. Our expectation is hope. We just go there. Let's just put in a shift and let's see what happens. With England, you guys, fucking hell. I mean, it'd be terrifying playing for England sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from an Irish point of view, it's like you're entitled to win stuff. It's like you're not.
But I think it's not the fans necessarily who have that attitude. It is the media. Because I've never thought England would win anything in my lifetime. We get a lot of stick for 3 Lions and about singing It's Coming Home, which actually that was written about just England hosting a tournament. And the whole song is about England not winning.
Yeah. But
anyway.
When England play a football match and they lose, I always check Twitter because I know some white, balding, aging English man is going to lose his job the following day because of a tweet.
Yes.
And when you played Italy in the Euros, I have a lot of my friends are English. I was very excited for my English friends. I don't care whether you'd win or not. I know the jokes over here is we'll never hear the fucking end of it, because we're still hearing about 66. You played really well in the tournament and then you lost on the penalties. And the reaction to you guys losing, especially, subsequently what came out, the storming of the ground beforehand.
Yeah, that was
the black players getting racially abused. I mean, you don't realise how lucky you were to be in a final.
Yeah.
And what will be enough? If you beat Italy in the final 4-0 and Raheem Sterling missed 2 penalties to make it 6-0, he would have still got off abuse for missing the penalty. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, the average England fan, you got to appreciate the football. It's unfair. Teams that are the best teams in the world on paper don't win.
Do you think that 2002 Irish team with Roy Keane in it beats Spain?
Yes.
Do you think they're going to beat South Korea?
I think we win the World Cup, no problem. Do you know what? When I look back at no one knows Roy Keane could have got sent off against Cameroon in the first game.
He was born on a yellow card, that man.
I don't know, but I just think that he would have driven us a little bit forward in the games when we're up against it. He would that experience to settle the team down. 1-0 down against Germany. I know we came back and Robbie Keane scored that great goal, but I think he would have given us that sort of composure. Now, when you go into the second round against Spain, we did okay with them. We missed a penalty during the game as well. People don't realise that. We missed a penalty. And then we went to penalties. And in extra time, Spain ended up going down to 9 men because they had used all their substitutes and players had gone off with exhaustion and tiredness or other injuries. And I just think that there was an opportunity missed there. If we'd have been beaten 2 or 3-0 against Spain in the second round, fair enough. But no one really knows. But we've never seen the likes of somebody like that. And we've never seen the likes of somebody like that play in a World Cup for Ireland at his pomp. And it was just a sad sort of way that, Ryan Giggs never played for Wales in a World Cup. We had the opportunity to see Roy Keane do that. And we lost that because of planning and organisation. Ryan Giggs didn't do that because they weren't good enough. We were good enough. And it is a shame. But you move on. And people are like, it was 20 years ago. Yeah, but I was in the prime of my life then, I was 18. I was 18 years of age. I was fucking loving it, I subsequently, 2 years after that, went to Korea. I actually went to South Korea afterward, not because of the World Cup. I wasn't doing a documentary on Roy Keane, but but I went out.
Get a blue plaque on the place my dreams died.
Exactly, yeah. My brother's friend was out there teaching English, so I went out to visit it, and my brother was out there. So it was just a sad time for everyone, and it's a shame.
The story of the World Cup, if we've learnt nothing else from doing these podcasts, is that they are littered with the nearlies and the what ifs.
Yeah, 100%.
And as English-centric as we can be, we have to realise that it's not just England. And it's not just Ireland. It's loads of countries have had this issue where they've, within a hair's breadth of glory, and 1 or 2 decisions go the other way, all of football history has changed forever.
Exactly. You look at, do you remember Ghana and Uruguay?
Yeah.
And Suarez. I mean, I hated Suarez, but I swear to God, I for the first time in my life, I thought, could I commit a murder? Because that man, what he did to Ghana.
Well, ask yourself this: would you have done what he did?
$1 million.
To keep Ireland in the World Cup, you're on the line.
Oh yeah, I probably would have, but it's Suarez. Yeah, but I'm Irish though. I can turn around and go, I'm really sorry. He didn't give a shit,
Andrew, thank you so much for coming and chatting to us about this. Sorry for dragging up such horrible memories for you.
You know what? I still think about that World Cup because there's loads of documentaries on it on Irish TV. I have put more effort into what happened in Saipan than I did in why my last relationship broke up. It's one of those things, man.
Andrew, how can people find you?
Well, if you come to my house, I'm normally in it. So you can find me on Instagram at Andrew Ryan Comedy. My podcast, everything is there, Cork in the North, from Cork, living in the north of Ireland.